Um, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this presentation of Making Your Windows Safer for Wild Birds. For the next hour or so, I'll share with you the importance of birds in our environment. And I know this audience is well aware of how valuable our birds are in the world, so I'll spend only a few minutes on that. I'll talk about the many threats they face as they navigate the human landscape, specifically one major lethal threat, window glass collisions. Most importantly, I'll offer easy economical ways to mitigate this problem. The PowerPoint presentation is about 40 minutes long with time at the end for questions and time to check out the window treatment samples. The Zoom audience can ask questions or make comments through the chat feature. You won't be able to inspect the samples, but all will be included and explained in the slideshow. Just so that you know, most of the samples were donated by generous vendors, and a small grant awarded by the Connecticut Ornithological Association, COA, was used to purchase some of the material. So let's get started. Why do birds matter? Beyond the sheer joy birds provide, they play an important role in our environment. And perhaps one of the most important is in the ecosystem services. They control pests by eating destructive insects and rodents. They disperse seeds, pollinate plants, provide food for humans and other organisms. They serve as nature's cleanup crew, and scientists routinely use birds to gauge the health of ecosystems. They also play a role in many of our cultural services. They serve as central characters in religion, art, literature, music, as well as in leisure and tourism. Given all these benefits, we want birds to continue to flourish. When birds flourish, people thrive. But birds face many threats out there in the human landscape, threats that puts their very survival at risk. According to research published in 2019 by journal Science, wild bird populations in the United States and Canada have declined by 30% since 1970. That's nearly 3 billion birds gone. Many of us can attest to that as we're seeing fewer birds in our backyards, at our bird feeders, and on our bird walks. The National Audubon Society estimates that 2/3 of the North American bird species will be at risk for extinction if Earth continues to warm at the current pace. What kind of threats do our birds face? They include habitat loss, poisoning from pesticides, electrocution from power lines, collisions with wind turbines, oil spills, lots and lots of dangers to navigate. Of all these, the top 3 include habitat loss, cats, and bird window collisions, which is the topic of tonight's presentation. My hope is to impress upon you just how widespread and disastrous bird window collisions are, and just how avoidable they can be. The majority of information I'll share with you tonight on bird window collisions is based on the extensive work done by the Bird Window Collision Working Group, a collaboration between 4 Audubon societies listed on the slide here: the Acopian Center for Ornithology in Melbourne College, Lehigh Valley Audubon Society, Wincott Audubon Society, and Audubon, Pennsylvania. The data offered is accurate, peer-reviewed, scientifically backed, and it aligns with National Audubon strategic priorities to protect birds. So how big a deal are bird window collisions, and what can be done to reduce them? Birds. Most of us like and enjoy birds. They bring a great deal of joy to us. We are captivated by their colors, their behaviors, their songs. We place a great deal of effort, money, and time in attracting birds to our yards. We have bird feeders, bird-friendly plants for food and cover, fountains for water, all to bring birds to our yards for their benefit and for us to enjoy them. The problem is we also have windows, lots of windows. And whenever birds are near windows, the risk of a collision is there. A brief note about window glass. The Romans were the first people known to have used glass for their windows. But Roman glass windows were nothing like the windows of today. The windows were small, the glass was thick, it allowed sunlight to filter through, but nowhere as transparent as the windows of today. It would take about 1,000 years before transparent glass windows would be used commonly in our homes. And the first documented bird window collision in North America was in 1832. A hawk tried to fly through a greenhouse pane. Since, collisions have grown exponentially, as have windows. And like it or not, our windows are killing birds. We don't want to see this on our doorstep, right? The number of windows out there is almost beyond calculation. Every home, office complex, college campus, and other type of building, they all have windows and they all have the potential to kill birds. Birds are dying everywhere there are windows, and the numbers add up. Dr. Daniel Clem, an ornithologist at Melbourne College, began studying the problem of bird window collisions in 1974. Much of what we know today is based on his research. He was pretty much alone in the beginning, but now there are many working on the problem worldwide. Research he published in 1990 estimated bird window collisions between 100 million to 1 billion annually in the United States alone. The low estimate of 100 million is equal to the mortality caused by the equivalent of 333 Exxon Valdez oil spills. Some of you might remember that oil spill in the Alaskan waters in 1989. It is considered the worst oil spill worldwide in terms of damage to the environment. If you can imagine, damage from bird window collisions is more than 300 times that of that oil spill. In 2014, using 35 years of additional data and more advanced statistical methods, a group of researchers listed on the slide here published a paper that moved the low estimate of 100 million up to 365 million bird window collisions annually, which breaks down to 1 million bird window collisions every single day, year after year in the United States alone. To put that in human perspective, the low estimate is greater than the total population of the top 200 cities in the United States. This is every single year, year after year. Mind-boggling to say the least. These are sobering facts for us, but not hard to understand given all the windows out there, and a bird here, a bird there, all add up. We all have read news stories about bird deaths from poisoning, wind turbines, electrocution, oil spills, and many other causes. Every few years, we see news stories about horrific mortality of a couple of hundred birds into a building, flying into a building, usually in bad weather. These stories are of hundreds and sometimes thousands of bird deaths. But with bird window collisions, we are talking about hundreds of millions. After habitat loss and perhaps cats, glass is the next leading cause of bird mortality worldwide. In summary, birds are dying everywhere there are windows, a proven fact, And this topic is underappreciated and not getting the amount of attention it deserves. The problem is lots of dead birds because they just do not see glass as an obstacle to avoid. So we are talking about 1 million bird window collisions every single day in the United States alone. Why is it that we don't see piles of birds under our windows, on the sidewalks? People just don't see it unless it's obvious, as it is in these photos. We don't see piles of dead birds for a number of reasons, one of which is many animals eat dead birds. Here's a photo of a chipmunk eating a goldfinch and a cat eating another dead bird. Other animals like skunks, squirrels, insects, they all eat dead birds. They're very efficient scavengers. 25 to 50% of all window collisions do not leave any evidence at all, not even unclean glass. And this leads people to think that they do not have a problem with window kills at their home. Field studies have shown that even a trained person will not find evidence of a strike up to 50% of the time. Another interesting fact, birds have incredibly flexible necks, and hundreds of X-rays have shown that they do not break their necks when they collide with glass, as people assume. Rather, they sustain concussions or internal injuries, and these injuries can take days to kill. Victims fly away to die elsewhere, out of sight, out of mind. Additionally, when people do witness a collision and the bird flies away, they think it's okay. But because of the type of injuries documented to occur in a collision, birds fly away to die later, often out of sight, under a bush, unnoticed. And window collisions kill some of the most fit of the population, not just the weak and unfit, risking to weaken the gene pool. The takeaway point is that most collisions go unnoticed and leave no evidence to alert people as to the problem. So why bird window collisions occur? Birds simply do not see glass and cannot recognize the concept that buildings hold glass. And glass poses two major problems. It's either see-through or reflective. And we'll see examples of each in the next couple of slides. This is an example of a see-through effect. When windows in a building line up with one another, birds often can see habitat on the far side and try to fly through it, often hitting the glass with a fatal force. This is an example of a reflected habitat. When glass is not protected with anything, birds can fly to it and hit the glass. This window, this bay window, has been treated with Jacobian bird savers in front of the glass to break the reflection of the habitat and alert birds as to the glass. And I'll mention the bird savers in a few slides again. So glass walkaways at any level can be particularly lethal due to the see-through effect. But really, any glass structure that allows birds to see habitat through it can be lethal, including glass walls, noise barriers, bus shelters, and such. Buildings can contain both reflective and transparent windows. As in this example, the top pane reflects the sky and the trees. The lower pane appears transparent, allowing birds to see on the other side of the building. Again, an example of both. The top of the plane shows the trees and sky, the bottom, the habitat in the building. But remember, all sizes, shapes, and location of windows can kill. In this example of a basement window reflecting vegetation, a juvenile robin flew to it and died. The homeowner witnessed the strike while sitting outside drinking his morning coffee. Remember, birds are used to flying through tight spaces, and almost no window is too small to kill. In this photo, also submitted by a homeowner, a mourning dove sustained a fatal strike on the side glass panel there, reflecting the sky. It looked like a clear passage to the bird. So there simply is no place where birds are safe near glass. It doesn't matter the season, the time of day, the weather condition. Most bird collisions make the news during migration and in urban areas. This is because when they occur, hundreds can die at one time in full view, on sidewalks, in front of many people. These mass mortality events in cities draw much attention. They are the reason most people think cities are the main location and timing of bird window collisions, but they're not. I used to think the same until a couple of years ago when I started reading about the problem. These events show incredible carnage, but fortunately are infrequent. Rather, research has shown it is the day-to-day collisions that occur year-round at residential and low-rise commercial buildings that account for the majority of bird window collisions annually, often at homes with good habitat. A brief note about the mass mortality events. Conservation groups, including Audubon societies around the globe, are working with industries, governments, architects to help develop products, put laws in place to decrease bird mortality. Examples include the Lights Out project in large cities, laws like the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918. All of this takes a lot of work, effort, and vigilance on their part, and we don't want to take away from that. But tonight, we're concentrating on an often overlooked area of bird window collisions, where in fact, most collisions occur annually, a problem we can address in our own backyards, one window at a time. The simple logic is that if you have a home with windows, a nice habitat surrounding the home, birds will come. And the more birds in close proximity of glass, the more likely a collision will occur. Glass kills, a sad fact, but we can do something about it. So what can we do to reduce the carnage? The next few slides provide some proven effective solution to prevent and reduce bird window collisions in our yards. So since birds do not recognize glass, we must either physically prevent them from flying into it or make it a visible barrier that can be avoided. This slide shows an example of a physical barrier. Netting is hanging in front of the glass to break the reflection. A couple of other ways this can be accomplished is by applying bird screens on the outside of the glass. You can get the bird screens from birdscreen.com. They're applied using suction cups, very quick, very easy application, and they work very well. Also, if you have inset screens on your windows, you can leave them on year-round, and that works as well. Making the glass visible to birds. This is the most used method and can be accomplished using decals, stickers, paints, dots, films, anything that birds can see and avoid the glass. There are two important rules to keep in mind with this method. The first is the 2x4 inch spacing rule. Anything that is applied to the glass needs to be spaced 2 by 4 inches or estimating it with an adult handprint. A wider spacing than that will increase the likelihood of a collision. There's been a change to this. The American Bird Conservancy is now recommending that the 2x4-inch spacing be replaced by the 2x2-inch spacing to protect the smallest of the species, like hummingbirds. They have not retracted that 2x4 spacing. It still protects the majority of the species, so both can be used. If you're worried about the hummingbirds or smaller birds, then you want to concentrate on spacing the object 2x2 inches apart. This bay window we saw earlier has been treated with the Acopian bird saver cords, also referred to as the Zen window curtains due to their calming effect. The cords hang in front of the glass to break reflection of the surrounding habitat. It's a good example of the 2x4-inch rule in a vertical format. It uses 1/8 parachute cord. It's easy to apply and economical. It's self-cleaning and easy to clean behind it without removing. And as you can see, the outside view is not obstructed at all. And people find this system aesthetically pleasing and elegant. Since the system is three-dimensional, the 4-inch spacing is effective in protecting all bird species. So another plus for this technique. And I have examples of this to look at after. The second rule to follow when making glass visible for birds is to use the outside surface of the glass. So whatever you choose to stick on the glass, it needs to be applied on the outside surface for best effect. Of course, there are exceptions. Partly blind, closed or open blinds can work, or anything like curtains, anything in the inside. But remember that the outside surface works best. There is a product on the market that can be applied on the inside of the glass. It's called Bird's Eye View Window Film. It's put up by Artscape. It comes in 4x4 or 6x6 squares. And the geometric pattern in the decals, you can see the little lines there in the decal, reflects UV light. And since bird vision extends into the UV range, the bird sees the film as a bright blue glow spreading all across the surface of the glass, disrupting the reflection of the habitat. To people, it appears just as a faint white geometric design. And studies conducted by Dr. Clem with this method shows that it reduces bird strikes 86% of the time if separated 8x13 inches. I do have samples of the decals that you can inspect after. So the 86% reduction, it's not great. The bird savers cords have an average of 90 to 95% reduction. So 86 could be better, but it's better than nothing. And if your windows are not accessible from outside, it's an option to consider. The decals are available at Artscape, on Amazon, or Lowe's. They come in a package of 6 or 4. The cost is between $6 to $8. Pattern kaleidoscape is another example. It's a type of window film used to advertise. Some of you might have seen it on buses. You can see through it on the inside, but the outside appears solid. It comes in many colors and patterns and can be personalized to your liking. This is an example of an informational kaleidoscape. The outside has information on it. the view from inside is intact, so no obstruction. You can also get kaleidoscope in decals. The size and shape does not matter, but the spacing does matter. You want to follow that 2x4 or 2x2 spacing rule. And remember, kaleidoscope comes in as a number of different options available. It's best to visit their website to get all the details. I have quite a few of their products for you to look at after as well. And all the techniques I'm mentioning tonight do have websites where you can go and get more information on the product. There's also videos available on step-by-step application. So take advantage of those. The American Bird Conservancy also recommends bird tape. Bird tape comes in a roll. You can apply to the glass using that 2x4 spacing rule. And Kaleidoscope carries the tape, and I have samples for you to look at. The feather-friendly do-it-yourself tape, also another nice option. It's easy to apply to windows or doors. It comes in kits with simple directions. The company that puts it out is out of Toronto, Canada, very consumer-friendly. They work closely with a number of Audubon societies throughout the United States. And I have used this product successfully. So this is my glass storm door that I've applied feather-friendly to. I did witness a fatal strike on the door prior to applying the product. So feather-friendly comes in a roll of tape, which you stick to the outside of the glass. Then you remove the tape, and the little white squares are left. They've already spaced into 2x4 or 2x2 patterns, so there isn't much measuring to do. And as you can see, the view from the outside breaks the reflection. The inside, it doesn't really hamper the outside view. So again, a good option, and you can do it yourself. And I do have samples of this available for you to look at as well. So tempera paint is another option. You know, if you're artistically inclined, you could create some lovely designs, but it doesn't have to be complicated. You know, if you have children or grandchildren, you can give them some paint and they can create their own designs based on holidays or seasons. So really, it's a win-win. It teaches the kids to protect birds. So a nice option. Another option is drawing vertical white lines 2 inches apart on the glass using a pen that writes on glass. Be sure it's waterproof and oil-based. It doesn't really obstruct the outside view much, and it can be removed if you don't like, or if you want to change the lines with a painter's trace or using a credit card. So those are 2 nice options, inexpensive. Again, if you have blinds on the windows, leaving them partially closed can help as well. So just what is bird friendly and who decides what is and what is not? Currently in the United States, there is no official standard for ranking or testing products claiming to be bird friendly. But the products I've mentioned have been field tested and proven to be effective in reducing and preventing bird window collisions. Here's an example that does not work. Applying decals to the glass kind of sporadically, it doesn't work because birds can fly around them. And the birds do not recognize the raptors as predators to avoid. So this system can work if the decals are applied according to the spacing rule, 2x4 or 2x2 inch, or using an adult handprint for an estimate. So it's an option if used properly. But remember, the decals do block almost all of the view, so be prepared for that. Placement of the bird feeders can also save lives. So research has shown that placing the bird feeders within 3 feet of the glass prevents the birds from building enough momentum so that if they hit the glass, it doesn't risk an injury. You know, so the birds kind of fly on the bird feeder, get a couple of seeds and quickly fly off, especially if they're startled by other birds or predators. So if they're too far away from the glass and happen to hit the glass with a strong force, the risk of an injury is increased. So remember, placement is best within 3 feet of the glass. Or Dr. Clem did studies placing the bird feeders 30 feet from the glass. That can save lives as well. So also, you know, throwing food on the ground can help as well. You know, most birds don't mind eating from the ground. But remember to throw it away from the windows, and also keep in mind, in case you might have roaming cats in the neighborhood, that might not be a good option. Angling the glass has to be extreme in order to work, so really not a practical solution. So the good news is that industry is taking notice of the growing demand for solutions and options for bird-friendly products. There are many retrofit window films and glass with visible patterns like fritted glass, UV glass, hatched glass, designed to reduce and prevent bird window collisions. Mostly these are available to the commercial and institutional markets, but it'll be only a matter of time before homeowners will be able to take advantage of these developments. For now, homeowners have easy economical options described in tonight's presentation to protect birds from glass strikes. No need to replace your windows. With any technique, be sure to follow that spacing rule, the 2x2 or 2x4 rule, or a handprint rule, and using the outside surface of the glass. Remember, we can make a difference one window at a time. I included a website on the slide for you to copy down to get more information on the products that I've talked about and a couple of more. The website is birdfriendlyards.net/consumer guide/. The director of the website is Jim Cubie. It's spelled C-U-B-I-E. He's a strong advocate of protecting birds from window strikes. He has a lot of information on this site on do-it-yourself techniques for your windows. He compares cost for each method. There are some videos available you can watch. So really, it's a great resource for you to refer to. So in the end, some people might still ask, why is it important to prevent bird window collisions, and what difference it makes if a few birds die at a building each year? Hopefully the answer today is obvious after what I've shared with you. If just 1 or 2 birds die each year at each of the hundreds of millions of windows that exist in the United States, that quickly adds up to hundreds of millions of birds dying every single year in the United States alone. And in terms of why birds matter, there are many reasons. Birds help to sustain human lives in many ways, not only with their physical beauty, but also with the important ecological services they perform, I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. Simply speaking, without birds, humans and many of the world's other organisms would cease to exist. So protecting them makes good sense. There are about 280 species of birds regularly occurring in Connecticut. We can help to protect them by using the products and techniques I've shared with you on our homes and places of work, and by sharing the information with your family members, your friends, your coworkers, your employers. By doing so, we'll help to make the world a better place for our feathered friends so that they can continue to make the world a wonderful place for us now and in future generations. So thank you for your attendance and your interest in protecting our wild birds. I left my email here on the slide in case you have questions or comments when you get home. Feel free to share your stories, your photos. I love to hear back. And we'll go to questions now. Thank you.